Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to this month's meetup with my good friend Anita Simpson. And listen, we just want to thank everybody who is joining us on this day. We definitely appreciate you. I do understand that there is an issue with the Facebook connection. That's all right. For those of you who are on Facebook, if you just don't mind jumping over to YouTube, and we're going to continue with this morning conversation. If this is your first time joining us, by all means, make sure that you look in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, click the symbol down there, and just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Please share this with somebody that you know because we're going to be uncovering and unpacking a lot of great information today. Um, and without further ado, I need to speak to and welcome my good friend and host for this particular conversation, Miss Onita V, also known as Onita Simpson. How are you this morning?
Good morning, friend. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. No complaints. I woke up. I saw I'm still in the number, like the old folks say.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
still in the number. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this conversation. And I tuned in last night. So I'm fired up.
You're fired up. I love it. I love it. So just to kind of add context to what she is saying, I told her, I said, look, you might want to jump on Friday night because I think the Friday night conversation is going to be explosive going into today's conversation. I believe it was. I thoroughly enjoyed last night. If you haven't had a chance to go take a look at it, by all means, please do because we uncovered some what I tend to call the four postures of communication. And I think it is somewhat revealing to everybody because we all struggle when it comes down to communication, and I think you're going to find that those communication postures fit nicely into the way that we're going to go as well. Again, welcome to those people who are joining us. Good morning, Bernadette Simmons. Good morning, Marie Boyd. Good morning, Michelle Ray. Uh, greatly, in fact, let me go and give flowers right now. So, yeah, Michelle
Oh,
Ray,
thank you.
there you go. Um, Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we do. We support our followers. We appreciate you guys. We value you so much. And we also invite you to give your perspective in the chat. And I like to bring them up during the conversation as well. Now, if you remember our previous conversation, remember our previous conversation was all about emotional intelligence. Like, so that's what we're talking. We're really talking emotional intelligence. But what you're going to find is that we're unpacking relationships through the lens of emotional intelligence. And today, we're going to focus on how to create and develop great relationships. And so last week was all about personal competence. Well, did I say last week? I'm sorry.
You did
Last
last month.
month was all about personal competence. This month is all about social competence. And the difference is with social competence, we focus on two aspects: social awareness and relationship management. And it is all about your ability to understand other people's moods, behavior, and motives in order to improve the quality of your relationships. Now, I understand that that creates a challenge. Not only does it create a challenge, what we need to understand is that the other person gets a vote when it comes down to the relationship that you're in with that person. I know we really wish we can take their vote away and like if you just do what I want you to do, everything is going to work out. But it don't work that way. That is the
Yeah.
problem. And to exacerbate the problem, what you're going to find is that that person brings their upbringing, they bring their trauma, they bring the lessons learned, even if the lesson that they learned was a wrong lesson. So all of that comes to the table when you say, hey, can we kind of figure this thing called life out together? So with that being said, bringing that problem to the forefront, that's the thing that makes relationship difficult. And here's the reality of the truth: friendship is a form of relationship, but
Yes,
friendship seems easier. But when you
it
say, hey, we're
is.
going to match life together, it just becomes difficult. And I cannot figure out why we view them as being different. But so that being said, let's start with this one, Anita. What were some challenges that you face or are currently facing when focusing on social competence?
For me, some challenges that I faced because we were rewording some things right before we came on here. We were rewording, so I'm gonna keep rewording it. Uh, I don't have to expect the same level of me from others because we are each individuals. And when I can give grace and extend grace, like we were talking about last time, it's not hard. It's not hard. So I can be around other people who are not like me. because I am one of one. You are one of one. So this is my race. I'm going to run it, and nobody can run it better than me, just like nobody can run your life better than you. So when I'm in these different atmospheres and different scenarios and situations, instead of me looking at them like, well, they could do this better or they could do, no, I want, who are you? Teach me who you are instead of me coming and telling you who you should be.
Mm, I like it. I like it. I, for me, right? Because I agree with everything you said. For me, one of the challenges that I ran into, and I think this is a challenge that most people uncover, is understanding that life is fluid. It's not a stagnant thing. So, let's just use you and me for an example. You're where you are, I'm where I am. And so the current information that I have about you is based upon our last interaction. So if I take a break and I go over here and I do some self development and self work and I'm better than this person and all this other great stuff, I am still coming back to you with the same knowledge of you that I had before I left. But you've moved as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever direction you chose to move, you've moved. So the challenge for me was just getting to the point to understanding that everybody has the right to make whatever decision they want to make in their life
Yes.
and being okay with that decision. That is one of the biggest challenges I had to come up with because I'm like, look, you should want to grow because it's the right thing to do. Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, I can't do that. Like, I have to be okay if you want to be stagnant. If you want to be stagnant, I need to embrace the fact that you want to be stagnant. I struggled with that because it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And because it didn't make sense to me, it was like, I'm trying to talk to you and help you understand a thing. But no, that's the wrong thing to do because the only thing I'm doing at that point is creating some anxiety, not only just for you, but between us as well. Because you're here and I'm trying to say, hey, we need to go here. Like, no, yes, no, yes. And so it destroys the relationship. And so we need to appreciate, that's the word. We need to appreciate whatever version of relationship presents itself in your life with other people. And in the space of appreciating, what I've found is that, well, I no longer feel the need to try to help a person or convince a person that they need to do better. So that was
Mm.
my challenge. That was the thing that I had to get to. That was my point of growth and development within myself, not necessarily forcing it or feeling like I'm forcing it on anybody else, but getting to the point to where I realize that whatever you choose to do with your life, I'm okay with that. I embrace it, and and I can uplift you within that space.
I want to
So
add to that because
absolutely.
when you said you want better for them, but they don't want it, you're like, why? Why? I had this conversation with myself and with the Lord. They can do so much better. I want better for them. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, they have their better
Mm,
because they can't think of any better than where they are.
mm,
Right. And
wow.
that right there, I was like, because we'll see something in
Hmm.
someone and they're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not. And you're like, it's so much better for you. But mentally, they are at their best
Yeah.
because they haven't grown. They haven't gained the capacity to mature in that area. So that is their better. So
Mm,
when I heard that, I had to reel myself back in like, okay, when they can break this barrier,
right.
then they'll see the better that we're talking about. But they
Absolutely.
have to in mentally they have to do that. They have to renew their mind. We talked about that last time.
Hmm.
So until they renew their mind, they're not gonna see the better that we see.
Absolutely. And that brings to the whole concept of the continual conversation that we had last time about self reflection. And remember, one of the things that we said is that self reflection never stops, it continues throughout the entire process of your development. You will spend the rest of your life self reflecting so that you can continue to grow. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that's a great point. I'm glad you said that. My main man, my main man, Roland, Mr. Ruddy Walk over here, he's showing where he's from. What up, though?
Happy Saturday.
That's my dude. Good to see you, financially focused, aka Dr. Sherry Sweet. Yeah, we got you. I'm gonna put it out there too. Good to see you and welcome to today's show. Ben, welcome to the show. Good to see you, brother. And welcome as always. Roland says that people are like water, and if they don't move, they're stagnant, and stagnant things begin to stink. Absolutely correct.
Mm.
Absolutely correct. I don't want to call nobody stink, but I mean, his analogy is not wrong. I say it that way.
It is
Uncle
not.
Junior, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show,
Good
brother.
morning.
Yes, yes. Good to see you, Queen V, aka Verlene McCoy. Welcome, welcome. I'm sorry, Miss Verlene McCoy. I need to make sure I give respect where respect due. I want to get in trouble now. So listen, listen again. Welcome to today's show, everybody. Again, I appreciate you guys coming. We're having an issue with Facebook. I don't know what happened this morning, but that's okay. We're going to press forward. So if you know anybody who's trying to join us on Facebook, please direct them to YouTube, and we're going to continue with this amazing conversation. And as we get into it, we're going to start unpack the 5 keys to increase your social competence. In other words, the key to great relationships. Now, that being said, the first one is like we talked about previously, social awareness. And when we talk about, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place right now. When we when when we talk about social awareness, we have to realize it is literally it's almost like just being like self-awareness. So self-awareness makes me reflect on what it is I do and why I behave the way that I behave in certain scenarios. Well, the same thing applies for social awareness. When it comes to social awareness, it focuses on what I do in the midst of other people and why I behave with those people the way that I do in response to their behavior or actions. And so from there, that leads us to what we talk about as far as the perception phase. So again, understanding the difference between perspective and perception, and I get into that here a lot more here in a second. In the perception phase, for me, in my mind, is living a life of service because I am constantly analyzing the information that is coming in. So, Miss Onita, if you don't mind, during times of awkward silence or first encounters, like when you meet people, what has been your go to question when connecting? And we're going to break connecting down in creating, maintaining, or nurturing with others.
That's a good one. So for me, the awkward silence is it's almost like, are you gonna go or am I gonna go? Who's gonna say something? Who's gonna break the ice? Because we are nervous even as adults, right? So let's just go back. As a child in kindergarten, you went and you were kind of nervous to make new friends because you weren't in this classroom before. But then your mom or your dad or your teacher, it's okay. You can talk to them. You could be their friend. It's the same thing as adults. It is not easy to just start a new relationship, even as a friend, because that's where it started. You got to start. We're not just jumping into it. We starting as friends first. And you may have past trauma from past friendships where you don't want to put yourself out there. So for me, I'm trying, not trying, I am, because we reworded. I'm not taking baggage because we talked about them bags before. I'm not taking baggage of previous relationships into this new encounter. And me being free from baggage, free from being bound, it's easy for me to say, "Oh, how's your day going?" If there's some, "Hi, how are you?" So, what are your plans this weekend? Something simple. What do you like to do? Is this where you're originally from? Being in the military, we travel, we're around different people. So, you got to learn how to adjust. That's one thing I had to learn how to do quickly is adjust. So, in those moments of awkward silence, I put away the little kindergartner who's scared to interact with someone and just ask, "So, how's your day going?"
Hmm.
And that either they're going to be honest, they're always doing, and I can pretty much tell how they respond. Oh, it's okay. No, it's something there. But I ain't going to press you on it right now. We'll get to it eventually when you feel comfortable with me. But I'm picking up on cues and signs for later on when the friendship has developed more. When you say this, I know there's something wrong.
Yeah.
What are
See,
your first encounters? Give me some tips because I'm still learning.
tips, yeah. Just spray some. No, I'm sorry. Listen, I I like to start off with this question by making sure that we have a clear understanding of perspective and perception. Because remember, one of the things I addressed is that this is the perception phase, right? And so perspective is in essence the lens that I view the world in, and perception is in essence the lens that I receive information through. So if I have a skewed perspective, then everything that I do moving forward, or as I speak to people moving forward, it is sifted through that lens. If I have a skewed perception, everything that comes through me goes through that lens, and it gets contorted to conform to the perception or to my thought of how it should be anyway. And I think that is a great starting point, because as our perspective expands, sort of our perception. So I have a responsibility to understand how I see the world and then expand that so that I can accept more of the world and the beauty within. I kind of talked about that previously. One of my changes that I had to go through is realizing that everybody is not going to grow at the same rate. So whatever another person chooses to do, be okay with that. That's part of that growth. You being a photographer, that equates to I am widening my aperture. So as I widen my lens, I get a wider perspective of
Mhm.
reality. The wider perspective of reality I obtain, then the larger bits of information that I can obtain accurately. Sensing. So I have the ability to sense the environment through the lens of the wider perspective. So now, when it comes down to it, when we start talking about creating relationships, my perspective is wider. Therefore, my perception is wider. So, creating relationships makes me not start conversations that put me in power, but ask questions that empower you. So instead
Mhm.
of saying, like, if let's just say if I want to focus on education, so where did you go to school at? Well, I never
Mm.
told you I went to school. You see what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
asking the question that way because I can come back and say, well, I obtained this degree from such
Mhm.
university. No, that's wrong. What I should do is sense. So I am looking, I am observing, I am listening. So I ask little itty bitty questions to get you comfortable with talking. How are you today? Great. How are you?
Mhm.
Fine. And women do a great job with it because you guys talk about shoes. So you'll look at a person, girl, where'd you get them shoes from? Them shoes is nice. You see what I'm saying?
Mm. Right.
Real estate agents do a fantastic job with it as well. That's how they do. They make the connection. They identify between the husband and the wife, who was the buyer, who was the purchaser. It's a big difference between the two. One person pays for the house, one person chooses the house. So whoever
Mm.
chooses the house, the realtor spend time connecting with that person and make sure that this person is okay. They don't spend a lot of time talking to the purchaser. They spend a lot of time talking to the buyer, because that person is going to buy the house. This person is going to supply the resources for the house. It's the exact same thing. So when I meet a person, I just create small talk until they give me a window of opportunity. Once they give me a window of opportunity, then I can expound on that. Case in point, if we, brand new employees together, I can ask questions related to, like, where was the, like, where did you come from, or such and such and such. So it's like, okay, great. Like you mentioned, being in the army, our biggest one was like, where you from? That's what we do real quick. Where you from?
Yeah.
In the States. Because it's simple. It breaks the ice. Once we break that ice, then we get to expound on it. Roland just did it just now. What up, though? Right? What up,
Mhm.
though? If you're from Detroit, you understand what that means. So it's an automatic connector. I had Samoan friends. My homeboy's name was I said was because he passed away years ago. Falatoa. Falatoa, they would be walking. If he see another Samoan, he had this little saying. He like, Soleil. Once he put that out, they
Mm.
turn around and they get to talking their native tongue, and it's over. I ain't gonna see Falatoa no more for the rest of the day. That's what that means, right? So now, with that widened aperture, I create through the lens of empowering the other person. Well, what does maintaining look like? Well, it is based upon the dynamics of the relationship that we establish. If the dynamics of the relationship that we establish, let's just say, for an example, that person views me as a teacher. Okay, fine. I don't mind teaching because that's what I do. I enjoy teaching, and that's why that's in my strength zone. So I don't mind
Right.
sharing, teaching, so forth and so on. When that person grows based upon a thing that I taught them, then I celebrate their growing. So
Yeah.
now that's the symbiotic relationship that exists in the maintaining phase of a relationship. So now I am uplifting, I am empowering, and recognizing the growth of that person. when they transition into their strength zone, not only do I appreciate them, I go and I solicit them. So let's just say, prime example, going back to the simple example of real estate. If, you know, the person is, haven't been a real estate agent or whatever before, but I see them grow into a real estate agent. When I buy my next house, I go directly to that person. That's what the relationship that we have mandate. Why would I not choose my friend to buy and
Mm-hmm.
sell my house? If I don't do that, it's almost like an indirect slap in the face. If I go solicit someone else. Now, I want to make sure I'm saying this because it's baseline. Your character has a voice in all of this because some people will show you the version of themselves that they want you to see just to
Mm-hmm.
get what they want from you. And once they get it, then the true person show up. I will separate myself from that person every time without hesitation. So I think that's important to understand as well. And then last but not least, we want to get into what I like to call that deeper and richer relationship. So now at this stage, then and this is the nurture stage. The nurturing stage requires me to take a risk for the sake of the development of this relationship. So what does that really mean? That means that I should be like we should be okay to challenge each other outside of our comfort zone. I should not challenge. See, this goes back to what I was talking about previously, right? I cannot challenge a person outside of their comfort zone if I do not have that relationship with them. So what does that mean? Okay, let me talk to, and I'm sorry, it's gonna be painful.
I like the warning.
I always got to get the warning right. Trigger,
Yeah.
trigger. So I read the Bible and talk about the Bible constantly. I do not take the Bible and slap anybody with it.
Right.
However, for those that I'm in relationship with, we have a deeper level of conversation and we challenge each other to grow within the parameters of the Bible. If you are someone I just met and we have not gotten to that nurturing stage of relationship, we can just have conversations. And at that point, I would just give my perspective, you give your perspective, and whatever it is, it's okay. But at the end of the day, what I cannot do is slap you in the face with the Bible, especially if I just met you.
Right.
Relationship is the gateway to growth. So, in order for me to get you there, it requires for us to develop and grow. Once we get to that symbiotic stage, now we have to decide, do we transition into the nurturing stage? Because that's where the risk is taken. Sometimes what we do is we want the nurturing stage of a relationship in the beginning when it comes down to creating relationship. I should not have just met you and said, "Oh, you're gonna be my new yeah, you're gonna be my new boo." No, you don't even know boo. So how in the world? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? That
Right.
happens all the time. You
Hmm.
cannot decide the fate of a person's life without understanding a lot of things that have to do with that person. You're not going to ever understand everything about a person, but you must develop the relationship from creation to maintaining into nurturing. Nurturing is where the decision is made. And there is no set time to get there. So
Mm.
stop telling people that if he known you for 3 months, what's taking him so long? Because there is no set time to go from creation to maintenance to nurturing. Both people decide. I just
Mm-hmm.
said that in the beginning. And that's one of the main reasons I say that. We mess it up all the time because we want to microwave this relationship.
Yep. And just as soon as it was microwaved, if you leave something in, okay, let's just use bread. If you reheat up bread in the microwave too long,
Mm,
it get hard, right? You don't want it. Okay,
mm,
rush that thing if you want to. And then when it gets hard and your heart is hardened, and that's what I'm speaking of, that
mm.
heart is hardened and you don't want it anymore, then you're out here looking for a divorce attorney because you didn't take the proper time, you didn't follow instruction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to say you're overcooking my grits. Um,
Who is overcooking grits?
I'm just saying. Hopefully, nobody's overcooking grits. So Michelle said I would ask about them and allow them to share, so I know how to posture myself for the next question. Absolutely, we have to become curious about people. Like again, my mentor says it best all the time. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I know we live in a society that believes in the Gentile, Lord, I just said that, in the gentle version, gentle, my bad, in the gentle version of relationship. Well, it's not about gentle, right? If you go back and listen to the conversation last night, there are times when aggression is necessary. There's time when passivity is necessary. So the relationship ebbs and flows just like time, just like everything else. So in the midst of learning another person, you ask questions to become curious about them, and as they're opening up, then that gives you permission to ask more questions about what they're opening up about. So you're a writer. Yes. How long have you been doing that? Oh, I've been writing for about 15 years. Really? Have you published anything that I can go take a look at? So you
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? So now I'm
Right.
asking questions, becoming curious about them, and allowing them to share more of their life with me. And then the next question I would get into, well, how did you get into journaling? So now we're going back
Right.
in time. Nostalgia is a very powerful drug. Just putting that out there. Uh, Good morning. I don't know if I spoke to you already, but I apologize if I didn't, but I'm gonna do it right now anyway. Good morning, Cassandra McKinsey. Good to see you. Let's see. Verlene, Miss McCoy says I start with a um I don't know what that. Yeah, I think she probably cleaned that up later. I touch it later. Good morning, Shaking Nations with Jesus Christ. Appreciate that. Let me see. Uncle Junior say hit the like button. Absolutely. Let me see. No one cares about your degrees. Add value to the conversation. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Being comfortable in the conversation is very important. Feeling as if you were being heard. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Uncle Junior says the waitresses and waiters do the same thing. They talk to the person. Absolutely. Because I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
get that tip. I need to get that
Okay.
tip. So I need to build a bond with the person who's paying for it. Absolutely. Let me see. I want to make sure that I am grabbing. Let's see. Michelle says the focus should be on the other person. If I ask you a question, stay with the conversation. Stop sharing outwardly. It can be deemed as arrogant. Absolutely. And see, this kind of goes
Yeah.
back to what we mentioned last night, right? If I am trying to connect with you, I think a lot of times, and again, that's why I made the distinction between the two, right? Between the three. I'm sorry. If I'm trying to connect with a person, like you don't ask a person a question just to give you the opportunity to one up them. You're not going to
Mm.
connect with that person. Oh, I have a bachelor's degree from, I don't know, Willacoochee Valley State. Okay, cool. Right. Well, I have a master's degree from, well, okay, so you just really just undermined my
Right.
bachelor. Right. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be
You minimize
careful.
the person.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think we do it, but we do it subconsciously and don't even realize that what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Mm.
Um, let
It's
me
like you
see.
back on the playground. Remember, well, my mom got this. Well, my mama got that. It's the
Right.
same. So
Absolutely.
it's like it's ingrained in us at a young age to show that we're quote unquote better than the other person. But are you really? I mean, because if we're all made in his image and his likeness, there's the even that's the field right there.
There
It's
you
how
go.
you grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. All right. Thank you, Queen V, for clearing this up for us. How can you assume that someone love you when you don't even, man, listen.
You better. You gonna make me. I'm gonna throw some.
Insecure
Us
people
on
measure.
that right there.
Absolutely. Roland says insecure people measure accomplishments. Absolutely. That's really what it
I'm
is.
just give me a second here.
By all means, you
Like
have it.
y'all on fire in the chat today. Okay, insecure people measure accomplishment because of their insecurities. They think that if they tell you what they accomplished, that they're going to be either at your level or show you they're better than you, when actually they're showing their insecurities by doing it. You just told me who you really are, that you're insecure. And because you see me, I can just walk in a room. Coach, you could just walk in a room and start talking to somebody, and you could see certain people will come up to you, how they talk to you. They're
Hmm.
intimidated just because you walked in the room. They don't even know who you are, but by how you walked in authority, because that's what we're doing. They feel like they gotta one up you. Well, let me go ahead. I got a scroll. I did this. I went here. I went this. I don't need all that.
That's right.
I don't have anything hanging up on my walls. Not no degrees, no certificates. We were talking about this before. I said I am learning how to what did I say?
She said that she is not good with self promotion.
Yes, I'm not. But I don't see it as an issue. But when people are
No,
overly promoting,
I'm sorry, I said it wrong. You said I have a problem with self promotion.
yes, I
And the
have,
talking point was like, you don't have a problem, you're just not accustomed to.
right. I'm not accustomed to self promotion. But insecure people, well, they don't have a problem with it. They don't. So I
At
like that
all.
point. I like that point.
But we know that's what he does, though.
Hmm.
That's what he
He
does.
keep us on our toes.
He does. He keeps everybody on his toes, man. That's why that's my brother. Listen, again, if this is your first time joining us, we definitely appreciate you and we value you and we look for the opportunity to celebrate you. So by all means, look in the bottom right hand corner of your screen and click on the little icon of so a flyer will show up and it says subscribe. Click on the subscribe button and share it with some other people because as you can see, we are unpacking some heavy stuff this morning. Also, for those people who want to become super supporters, right? By all means, on YouTube, look up under your chat window. You'll see the square with the dollar sign in it. Go ahead and support us if you don't mind. For most of our super supporters, depending upon the level of support, if you've seen the show last night, I had on the Empower and Perspective Community polo shirt. That is going to be a gift to you for super supporting, and we greatly appreciate you. Again, and you be on the lookout. There's some more stuff that I'm going to provide for all of our super supporters as well. Michelle continued in that vein. Insecure creates unwanted and uneasy drama and makes the environment bad. We greatly appreciate that because you're absolutely right. Your light and
Absolutely.
your gift threaten those that are in darkness. They feel they need to darken your light in order to make themselves feel better. Man, Cassandra is preaching this morning already.
Listen, I got a
That
chip in
was
my
nice.
shoulder, okay?
That was nice. I'm sorry. That was good. Man, that was good. Um, what Beth, welcome to the show. It's crazy because some people could have more than you and still be insecure of you because you smile and hold your head high and secure within yourself. Absolutely correct.
I'm out. I'm out.
We just let them. I'm telling you, they're
Y'all
they're
go
on
ahead.
it. The chat is fire this morning. Thank you guys, man. This is amazing. What Roland and for the icing on the cake, let your walk speak for you.
That's
Absolutely,
all you got to
that's
do.
all we got to
That's
do.
all you got to do because there's a light on the inside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing the light. You don't have to say anything. You just
That's right.
walking in that. And what does the scripture say? You are a city on a hill that will not be hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no hiding who you are. We children of the Most High, but we gonna continue because they
This
on
this
fire today.
yes, they are. You are human beings, not human doings.
Mm,
And on that note,
mm.
we gonna move on to the next one before I start singing in my old lady church voice.
Look, got
This
me
little
shimmying
light
up
of
in here.
mine. Um, so stop it. The cleaning phase, right? So the cleaning phase, man. This is so good on this beautiful Saturday morning. The cleaning phase, and if you've heard us talk before, you've heard me talk about spring cleaning. I had to learn to clean out my mental mess. So as we start talking about the cleaning phase, this is the constant conversation that we have with ourselves. Now, why is this a part of social competence? Because the conversation that you have with yourself will prevent you from having the fruitfulness of relationships with other people. I can't stress that enough. You would literally talk yourself out and sabotage relationships. So, with that being said, Miss Onita, if you don't mind, as a woman, and I'll address it as a man, what are some conversations you used to have, whether past or present, to have with yourself that didn't or doesn't serve you well in the relationship spaces?
I felt like I had to blend in, and I was constantly questioning who I was and if I was good enough to be in the relationship or good enough to be friended. And it was like, okay, they don't like me because of this. And as a child, I was bullied. So when you're bullied, I mean, you grow into thinking, well, nobody likes me because they're always talking bad about me. So what do I need to change about myself so that way they will like me more, or I can fit in? And it's really the insecurities in them. That's why they're really bullying you. Like I had
Mm,
to learn that, like I'm being bullied because they feel like I'm better than them when I'm not even doing anything different. Like I think it was Rudy said, you're just walking in. So I had to stop talking down and the I call it self deprivation,
Mm,
the conversations that I am debasing myself. I'm trying to lower who I am to fit in with others. And that's not what God called me to be. He said I was set apart. So if I'm set apart, I'm not to blend in. And I had to learn that. So those conversations, they changed. They went from, oh, maybe if you wear your hair like this, they'll like you
mm,
more. If you do your makeup like this, if you dress like that, I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses just so I'll fit in. It gets tiring. You cannot keep living somebody else's life. It's too expensive
mm,
and it's too much mental capacity and mental space that you're giving because you constantly are trying to figure out in different settings. Okay, over here I need to dress like this. Over here I need to talk like that. Over here I need to act this way. Just be yourself. So, as a woman, for me, I was trying to fit in with other women by doing things. Either it was gossiping because they gossip, and everybody wanted to be where they were, not knowing that if I'm gossiping, and you can call it selfish if you want to, if I'm gossiping about you, that's less time I get to spend on me
mm,
and
mm,
growing in the areas that I want to grow in. I
mm.
can't give you that. That's too much power that I'm giving you. So I don't talk. My phone is silent. It's quiet. So learning how to not deprive myself, not to debase myself and who I am, who God has called me to be, just to fit in with others. I've attracted more people who want to get to know me, and I'm like, I'm a silly, goofy person. If y'all, I'm always laughing. This is how I am. I'm cracking up. I'm finding something to smile about, something to laugh about. You want to know who I am? Oh, okay. I mean, it's no more, that, and also that created depression for, like, I was in depression because of that, because I was trying to fit in with everybody else and just instead of just being myself.
Mm.
So those conversations with me, I had to learn who I was, what I needed, settle myself, listen to who God said I was, and then walk in that
Yeah.
instead of who everybody else expected me to be. I'm not a gossiper. I'm not a backbiter. I'm not a cheater. I'm not a liar. These things. I'm not these things, but I was taking on these type of personalities in order to fit in.
Right. Can I ask you a question before because I'm learning, because I think every man, when you hear a woman tells you about some of the things that she's been through, like you should become curious and learn based upon what she's saying. So, where did you learn your identity as a woman from, if you don't mind me asking?
Ooh, that's good. Look, you got me. I would say, where did I learn?
Yeah.
I would say it was a development. Developed into this.
Yeah.
It was something I saw as a child. So I'll say it like this: it was bits and pieces of different women. I like how she carried herself here. Oh, I like how she spoke. I like how she raised her children. So it was, I saw all these different attributes in women. Some of them I didn't like, but I like, the person they were, but I liked certain parts.
Right.
And I was like, okay. But I had to settle myself into knowing I like these parts, but I'm not them. I'm me. So I had to develop into me, but I also had to get rid of previous misconceptions about what society said I was going to be.
Right.
So when I settled and I was like, who am I? Then I looked back and I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I could refine this a little bit. You look at yourself every day, you shouldn't get stagnant. If you don't like, everything is changeable. You don't
Yeah.
like your teeth, go get braces. I did. I have gray hair at the top. I ain't like that, so I colored it.
I
I'm
ain't
not.
color mine.
I'm not doing it for coach. I'm doing it because this is what I like.
Right.
I like how certain. I like how my clothes fit when I am fit.
Hmm.
I don't want to have to wear Spanx. That stuff is hot. I don't want to have to wear shapewear. I just don't. So I'm looking at bits and pieces. I like this about me. I love this about me. I don't really like this too much. I think I can improve. It's like you said, it's continual, but the development came, well, yeah, I'm called development. The development came over time. It
Yeah.
started as a child, and then in my 20s, and then 30s, and now in my 40s, and then sitting with the Lord and saying, okay, this is what I like, but who are you saying I am? And some of those things he said, no, no, I don't, that's not it. So I'm like, but I like, no, because I was making it an idol.
Hmm.
I had,
Absolutely.
I had to have it when I really didn't have to have it. So bits and pieces from different women over time. I'm settled now. Like I'm 41.
Right.
I ain't trying to do all that.
I love it. I love it.
So I
Um,
want to hear from you though. Like
yeah,
as a
yeah.
man.
I love it. And I asked that question because that's where I start at. I will start at the identity of manhood. I think I've shared several different occasions. I don't mind sharing. Like my father wasn't around when I was growing up. In fact, he wasn't around since I was 3. So when it came down to understanding, the identity of of a man, more important, my identity, I had to piecemeal it, kind of like what you talked about. I always talk about my uncles. I had what I call the uncle brigade. Awesome men, but none of them perfect. So I didn't want this version of my Uncle Glenn. I didn't want this version of my Uncle Mike. I didn't want this version of my Uncle Tony. But the three of them together, right, combined, created an image. And I think when you think about it, when you're younger, you do it easily without even thinking about it. In fact, you try to emulate somebody else to the point you'll
Mm-hmm.
start trying to match their walk. And it becomes obvious because it's uncomfortable for you, right?
Yeah.
So it gets to the point where you're like, okay, well, I can't take the whole person. I can only take a piece of the person. I need to take a piece of. So in essence, the pieces of a man created the identity that I realized what manhood was. And then when you start looking at it overall, you start listening to like what you come to the conclusion of what manhood is all about, and then what other people tell you about what manhood is all about. And here's the sad part about it: the other people talk louder than the people that should be talking and telling you what manhood is all about. So I started hearing what manhood should be, coming from women more than I hear what manhood should be coming
Mm,
from men. Right? A real man wouldn't do a real. And if you heard me say this before, stop doing that because you don't even know what a real man is because your daddy is
right.
just your daddy. He's not, whatever, right? He's a man, but he is not a perfect man. He's not even a good man if you read the Bible. So at the end of the day, as I was growing up, I started hearing that stuff from women. And so it caused confusion. And so, in essence, moving forward, I had to go on this journey. And what I realized to be the consistent message about manhood is that men do two things and two things well: provide and protect. And I don't care
Yeah.
where you go, that is a constant norm. If you ask anybody, what should a man do? Provide and protect. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
in there. There may be some other things added to it, depending upon who you talk to, but provide and protect will be part of that narrative. Well, I added a third part to it, and that part was prayer. So men provide, protect, and pray. That's what they do. They don't necessarily have to do it for sure. They don't even have to do it in front of you. That don't mean that they're not doing it. And they may not
Right.
even do it like you, but they're doing it. But manhood is so much more than that. That was the other piece I had to get to. Men teach, men coach, men instruct, men nurture, men mentor, like mentor. It's not rocket science. It's
Right.
really in the language, and a lot of times we bypass it and we strip a person of the identity before they get it by literally minimizing it to just two things: provide and protect. And if you can't do, which is in essence what provide and protect is, then you are no good. Well, we just said you're human beings, not human doing. So my doing is not for you to measure. My doing is for me to assess. And I'll talk
Mm,
about that in a second. My doing is for me to assess, not for you to measure. As I look at what I'm doing, I should be able to look at it and assess my identity by realizing that you're not doing according to who you are.
mm,
I'm gonna say it again. You're not doing according to who you are. The Bible says faith without deed is dead. Faith
mm-hmm.
is a subset of your belief system. In other words, your belief system is in the hope of the promises of the Most High God. Therefore, If you believe in the Most High God, that means you had to go through the Old Testament and study as He give you a clear depiction of who He is, as describing Himself as I am, and then eventually you move forward and realize that it transitioned after Christ from going from I am to what the Bible tells you to be.
Mm.
Be, not do. Be. Then there's a constant communication. I won't say constant, but there's a kind of like a difference in focus. I'll call it that way. Some theologians call it like an argument, but it's like a difference in focus between Paul and James. Well, Paul says, based upon your faith, right? James said, yeah, okay, I got it, but your deeds. But in essence, when we look at it, my faith should be the thing that drives the deed from the
Mhm.
inside perspective. From your perspective, to judge my character trait, to determine my character trait, you should be able to look at my deeds and understand what I believe in.
Right.
That's how it works. So the assessment piece is for me to assess. So when I realized that, I stopped listening to what other people say. Once I stopped listening to what other people say, I only listened to those people who believed as I believed, because
The
who I
quiet
was
voice.
right, who I was pursuing ideally was who they were pursuing. Therefore, they understand what the Bible says as it tells me to be.
Mhm.
So listening to you tell me that I should be out in the street, I should have 3 and 4 different women, that's not who I am. I
Mm.
am pursuing the Most High. That's it. So if that's what his conversation was, I had to learn to disconnect myself from people that had conversation like that, because it helps me to get to the point of being and not doing. We just got finished talking about that. So the concept of identity was huge for me. But it also helped me to understand, or get to a place of better understanding what relationship was, because it helped me to put doing in its right perspective. Relationship is not about you doing, not about me telling you to do. It is about me being.
Mm.
So I think we talked about this before, doing our transition. In fact, I said this last conversation, like doing our growth transition, things of that nature. Like I think it's a little harder for you than it is for me, because I can put on a pair of basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap, go to the corner store, get a soda pack and nabs, and come back. I'm good. Nobody even bother me. Some people even afraid to speak to me because of what they think I look like, thuggish,
Right.
right? You, I don't care what you put on. You go to the store, somebody is going to say something, because they're not concerned about who you are. They're more concerned about what you are.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. Once you move outside of that mindset, then you start looking at relationship. Yeah, I said naps. You start looking at relationship as a facet of being. Paul said it before, and I think it's important to understand. Paul said, I choose to stay single because I can stay focused on the things of Christ. He said, but you who are married, you got to stay focused on the things of Christ and worry about the things within your marriage,
Mhm.
right? So when I got the understanding of relationship down is better, I realized that I need to focus on one relationship, and one relationship gets my undivided attention. That's my relationship with him,
Mhm.
not with anybody else. He is numero uno. He comes first in everything. So guess what happens when you contradict him? You got to go.
You're out of there.
That's it. It's that simple. I cannot do idols.
Mm-mm.
Anything you put before him becomes an idol.
Mhm.
Period. With a T at the end. That's just it. I did that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Period.
I'm periods. I'm working on that translation. Period. Right? That's it. That's it. So once I understood that, I realized that relationship at first, the first phase of relationship has nothing to do with our connection. It has to do with our connection.
Mhm.
Once I realized that, then it helps me to better gauge this connection. There's the cross. So now I value relationships because I value this relationship more.
Mhm.
So I understand what it's like to
Right.
to be concerned, have compassion, all these other things. And I understand what it's like to be frustrated for your good.
Yes.
Yes, I can be frustrated for your good and you think I'm mad at you. And I'm okay with how you perceive it, but
Hmm.
I'm not going to own it. Widen your aperture. Widen your aperture. Come out of that immature way of thinking when it doesn't go your way and move over to here. Why is this person upset with me? Because they're trying to help me to understand something for my good, not forcing you to understand. It's like, how can you say this thing, but then you do this thing?
Hmm.
That's the nurturing part of the relationship that we talked about. And then it just kind of helped me to understand something else because we all go through it. Comparison. I compare my life to this person's life and I see what this person's
Hmm.
got. I want what they got. I see Roland, he got the baseball caps looking nice, you know what I'm saying? Roland got the curly hair. And what can I put on my beard to get my beard to curl up like Roland? Yeah, we do the comparison thing and we compare ourselves to people. And then we think less of ourselves because of what somebody else got or what somebody else is
Exactly.
doing. That's not, no.
Mm-mm.
So when we look at these conversations, it's a lot. You have to learn to take every thought and hold it
Captive.
captive and submit it to the word of God.
Hmm.
And when you do not know the word of God, the only thing that you're going to submit it to is your perception of what another person did to get to where they are. And then you're going to chase that. Well, they got a lot of money, so I need to get a good job. Oh, okay, cool.
No.
But we're
Do
going to
you know what
forego.
it takes to get that money? Like,
No.
and it's like we see what somebody wants or somebody has, and we want it, not knowing the sacrifice in order to get it and maintain it.
Mm,
Because it's one thing to get it, but you have to maintain it. And then after you've maintained it, then where do you go from here? It's
right.
always you're always growing. You're not supposed to be stagnant, even though some people are. But you want something that someone else has, but do you want to go through what they went through to get it?
Mm,
You don't.
mm-mm.
I don't want nobody else blessing
No.
because what I learned is what I go through and what I've been through could possibly kill somebody else. The
Mm,
same way that what somebody else went through, it could possibly kill me. I
absolutely.
don't want that. So we have to stop comparing. We got to settle in ourselves that you work, you get what you earned. Not nobody is handing anything to you.
Yeah,
But if you don't want to listen to him, and he's the one who's guiding, he's the one
that's
who's
right.
instructing, he's the one who's went ahead of us to clear the path. You won't even stay focused on the path that he put you on, let alone you turning your head to left or right. Ooh, I like what they got. No, no,
That's
that's
right.
not for you. That could kill you. Stay focused.
Yeah. And within that space, I mean, my goodness, we just a little bit of stuff, and we didn't talk about a lot. Just a little bit of stuff that we just talked about. We just talked about a month's worth of non-recurring conversations in your head,
Hmm.
non-recurring, and it's a lot. It is literally depression in action, and it develops over
Yes.
time. And if you don't quiet it down, if you don't find a way to get rid of it, root it out, dig it out, submit it to the word of God, if you cannot do that, then the only thing you're going to do is get involved with someone else and you're going to use them to satisfy your insecurities. In other words, you're going to make that person your God. And then once they fail to give you what you want, then they become the worst thing since, now I don't want to say it, but they become bad. That's it.
Because we're deflecting. We don't want to reflect on ourselves.
Right.
We don't want to look at us. So we deflect. It's them. Well, you the common denominator in all of these relationships, baby. Come on. We got to sit down and really take a look.
Right.
Okay? We have to. And it was something you said earlier when you said when you have a relationship with him, you're able to have compassion for others. I want to put this in this conversation. I remember being upset that the Lord was putting certain people in my path, and I'm like, I don't want to like them. I said, let me like them how I like them. Let me love them how I love them. Not you making me love them. And it was over time, coach, over time that I got the
Hmm.
revelation that he said, you can't love them in your own strength because you're fickle. Somebody get on your nerves, you don't like them no more. But if you love me, then you're allowed, and not allowed, but then you know how to love them, and it'll
Hmm.
never change.
Right. I, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm able to love others because I love him first.
Can I?
Go
I
ahead,
mean,
go
because
ahead.
you started it, and I wasn't gonna go there, but you started it. You can't love them without loving him
Yes.
first. The love that you give the people comes from him. It doesn't come from any place else. If it does not involve him, it's not love. It's like.
Mm,
That's
mm,
it. In fact, I will go a step further with that. It's not even the right kind of it is not even the right kind. It is only based upon emotional fulfillment. Therefore, when that person stop making you feel good, then you think that person don't like you. That person is against me. We
mm-hmm.
you're gonna behave like y'all are enemies now. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. We confuse it in our mind. I always ask this question. Your child can go and rob a bank and then come knock on your door and you let your child in the house like they did nothing wrong. In fact, you might even try to hide your child from the cops because that is your child. But
Mm.
yet you will bind yourself with somebody else, and they do one thing to offend you, and you say all bets are off. This is over. What kind of love you working with? That's not love at all. It's
It's
not.
not.
It's not even
It's
remotely
not.
close. But we are psychologically confused and have been doing this for years
Mm-hmm.
because we were bamboozled. I'm gonna go there. We were bamboozled, led astray, run amok because we believed in the concept of Cinderella and life happily ever after. Somebody was gonna come in on a white horse and sweep you off your feet
Sweep
and
you
take
up.
all your worries away. That is a lie. It has been a lie from day one. It is a lie
Mm-hmm.
today. And I don't care how much you try to interlace that into the relationships you got, you are setting it up for doom. It won't last.
It will
That's why
not.
I believe, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. That's why I believe that there's a lot of relationships that exist and people have just learned to cope with one another because they realize in the
Mm.
midst of their existence, the lie revealed itself. And now, because in our community, at one point in time, it was an abomination to get a divorce. So,
Right.
come hell or high water, we're going to stay together. Well, they're existing in hell because the water ain't going to come and save them. They chose to be there. Well, I'm
Mm.
waiting for the Lord to send me my king. He ain't going to do it. He sent you the one and only king. He going to, just being honest.
But see, he sent. I know he sends people, but because we want to love the way we want to like the way we want. We don't want to love the way he said to. It doesn't. It doesn't make it past go. You're not collecting $500. No, we don't have the capacity to love on our own because today I like pink, tomorrow it might be black. Today I like you, tomorrow you done made me mad. I ain't talking to you. So, but he talks to us. He said, "I'll never leave nor forsake you, no matter what we do." Even that child who robbed the bank, he was still with them.
That's right.
But we'll turn our back on somebody that didn't answer a phone call or didn't show
Mm,
up for a birthday dinner.
mm.
Come on, come on. We have to get to a point where we know that nobody is perfect. We are human beings. We have to love the way Christ loves us. Is it hard? Oh yeah, that ain't the word I want to say.
Mhm.
It is extremely rough to do it. But when you think about all the stuff that you've done, and he still loves you, he never turned his back on us. It should become easy for you to lay down your thoughts, your idiosyncrasies about people, how you think they should be, this facade and this imposter that you have developed for, oh, this is the right man. This is a good man, Savannah.
Mm,
No,
mm.
no. Because are you good? Not all the time. No,
Absolutely.
you're not. So I'm so glad that you brought it up because it brought back to my remembrance. I remember I was like, I want to love them on my own. I don't want you.
Mm.
And I learned I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity to love anybody on my own because emotions will get in the way. And I'll say, nah, I'm done with you. I don't have nothing else to say to you.
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, you guys are on fire. Forgive us. We kind of went off on a tangent just now, but it was a good tangent. But I want to make sure that we acknowledge you guys. Ravonda, hi, Miss Jackson. Ooh, how you doing? Welcome to today's show. Good to see you. And man, you guys are just putting up so much good information. I'm trying to catch them as we come. I want to put this up front as well because I want people to understand that there's a natural transition that must happen. You'll see it every day in the workplace as soon as you get a new job, and you can attest to this because of the job that you have. When you first get a job, you're working on doing the best job that you can. So you're focusing on your job description and you're making sure that you stay in compliance with what they told you that you must do
Mm-hmm.
because they keep the commandments or does what he says. That's called compliance. You don't get to commitment without going through compliance.
Mm-hmm.
That fits every development model you can ever think of. Once you become comfortable with compliance, then commitment sets in. What does that really mean? Now I'm not focused on doing a good job. I'm focused on being the best person that has ever done the job.
Right.
That's the difference.
That
And
part.
so commitment is really the definition of love, not how you feel. I'm going to say it again.
Can you say it again, please?
Commitment is really the definition of love, not how you feel. That's why this has to work. That's why this not only exists on one side of the book, but it also exists on the other because it doesn't ever change. It works in your job as well. You don't love the job until you know how to do the job.
Mm,
You're
mm.
not committed to the job yet because you're still going through the anxiety of doing a good job.
The idea of it.
Right. So I wanted to kind of throw that in there because man, you started me on something. Listen, we got to keep pressing. Listen, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button and share it and share it with other people. Also, by all means, I want to make sure that I take the time to thank all of our super supporters. We greatly appreciate you. I also have a very nice black and yellow polo shirt. Other colors are coming soon. So all of our super supporters that reach that particular level, they will get a free shirt. There are also some other swag that comes as well, and we want to make sure that we acknowledge all of our super supporters. Now, here, I'm sorry, the art of deep or empathetic listening. I like to fashion this as hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Why? Because when you think about it, it goes deeper than what you know. So,
Mm-hmm.
what deep or empathetic listening techniques do you use to develop and nurture fruitful relationships? Now, remember when I started talking about the phases create, maintain, and nurture, we're talking nurturing now. This isn't everybody. You don't have these types of responses and relationships with everybody. There are few select people that you have these with. So, again, I'm sorry. What deep or empathetic listening techniques do you use to develop and nurture fruitful relationships?
Time. That's a big one for me. That's when you're listening, you're giving time, and it should be uninterrupted. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's something like you what you all were talking about last night. Are you listening to respond,
Mm,
or are you truly listening to learn? So when I'm listening to learn. I want to know what is it, and how can I assist? How can I help you? I mean, I don't want to just. I'm hearing you talk about your day. I'm hearing, or if you really need someone to listen, and I'm talking about, well, this happened today. Well, I'm diminishing what you're trying to get to. You need me to be quiet. You need me to show you that you care, that I care. I'm sorry, that I care about what you're saying. And for me, it's given the time because I'm big on time. I mean, oh, that's like, please don't waste it. Please don't waste my time because that was one of my cutoff things. But I'm not. I've been delivered. So I make sure that if someone says, "Hey, this is what's going on," I set aside what I'm going through. I set aside any distraction. I'm talking about do not disturb. I'm blocking it out on my calendar. I gotta go sit with such and such. I once went to a friend's house and it was not me who sent me. It was the Holy Spirit because I didn't know I was going there. But her name just dropped in my spirit. And I drove an hour to get there, not knowing what she needed. And when I got there, it was a surprise. She didn't know I was coming because I just said, "Hey, I'm having something sent to your house. I
mm,
need your address." So I got there and I was there from 7. 8:30 p.m. until 1 a.m. in the morning. And when I got there, she started crying. And when I was like, "What are you crying for?" I hadn't seen her in a while, but you can't be that surprised and happy to see me. But when
Right.
she started to spill what was going on, I knew why I was sent there.
Mm.
I was sent there to listen and to show Christ to her and sit with her. And she shared with me the things that she was going through. And everything that she was going through, I had a resource, but I waited. I waited until she finished speaking.
Yeah.
And it was mental note. Okay, yep. I heard her say this. I heard her say that. So when she asked me for my input, because it's different in listening and communication, talking, then I said, all right, you said this. Here's what I'm going to show you in scripture. You said this. Here's a resource here on YouTube where they're preaching about this. And I said, I know why your name dropped in my spirit today. And she was crying and she looked lighter. She was depressed. I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna lie. But by the time I left there, it was like a light was back. And she said, "Thank you so much for this. I have
Mm.
homework." And she would give me follow up. Hey, I've been looking at these videos. Hey, I read this. Hey, I so sometimes we just have to be quiet and listen. And when they ask for feedback, you give it.
Mm.
Not always trying to, well, I don't want to, how do I want to say this? I don't want to one up them. Well, yeah, I did go through this, but this is, how I got through it. Sometimes that's not best. And y'all talked about that last night.
We did.
Sometimes you just have to be quiet. And if they ask for your input, be still, listen. Because if you're spending time with him, look, if you're spending time with him,
That's right.
he's going to tell you what you're supposed to give them. Don't give it from your own standpoint, what you think. Give them what's true.
Mm. I love it. Uh, Listen, she made reference a couple of times. If you have not listened to the conversation from last night, please do, because those brothers was on fire. I was just a quarterback. Um, uh, I like what you're saying, and I agree. And if you have not picked it up yet, relationship is hard work.
Very.
So as we're having this conversation, those of you who are in relationship, hopefully you're considering whether or not you've done that level of work. Because if you have not, it's not too late. As I listen to you talk, I am formulating my thoughts, and two things come to mind. Excuse me. Two things come to mind. First is reflection, right? And the next is assessments, but they're not the same. We need to understand it. I kind of talked about it leading up to this point, and if you haven't gotten it, everything that we've talked about has led up to here. Reflection and assessment. I need to understand what it is that I am doing. So I reflect on what I did during that particular time frame. So if we're having a conversation, I'm reflecting on how I perform in the conversation. Too many times what we do, we reflect on how the other person performed. But the other person is
Mm,
not your responsibility. You can't change anything about the other person. So I reflect on how I performed during the conversation. That's the doing phase. But remember, I said you're a human being, not doing.
mm-hmm,
Therefore, I must assess. That's the second word. Assess how I perform in accordance to how he performed.
mm,
So reflection is all about me, assessment is all about him.
right.
Notice that Onita was not even a part of the conversation I just had because there should be no judgment about anything that she did. It should be first reflection. And when I say that, I mean initial judgment. There should be no initial judgment. If my initial response is, but you did wrong, that means I haven't even applied any level of thought to anything she just said. So
Mm,
the initial thought can never be about her. The initial thought must always be about me. That initial thought incorporates my body posture, it incorporates how I listen, it incorporates how I respond, and it incorporates whether or not I am judgmental. Hmm. Well, what does that mean? Well, body posture. Do I have a receptive body posture? Am I open? Do I have a defensive body posture? Or do I have a body posture that says that I'm not even in this conversation now that we're talking?
okay.
That's the first thing that I need to assess. The second thing, when it comes down to it, I need to understand how I listen. Now, again, not last night, but 2 weeks ago, we broke down listening. Like, I mean, we really got into it. Listening is important. We need to progress to the stage of what we call empathetic listening. So, as Onita is talking, am I really in tune with what she is saying? Am I hearing not just the words, but hearing the emotions behind the word, hearing what happened and how she actually felt during that particular stint that she's trying to explain? Or am I waiting for her to shut up so I can tell her exactly what I did that's comparable to what she actually did? You see
Mm.
what I'm saying? We
Yep.
do that all the time and don't even realize what we're doing. Empathetic listening requires me to remove myself completely out of the conversation. I need to shut this up and shut this up. Once I can do that, I should be able to listen. Then, and at that point, only thing I'm doing is actively listening. Then I need to go into almost like a meditative concentration in relation to how she is speaking. I not only sense the words, but I sense the emotions behind the word to where there is a spiritual connection that bonds the two of us together in the midst of conversation. That is empathetic listening. That's why I am not moved when people talk as though they have perfected empathy. That is not true. Empathy is the hardest thing to ever teach. It is an emotional connection. It's not a physical thing that you can do.
Hmm.
What I have to do is learn to control this thing so that the spirit can move through the two of us. That's how I get to the point of responding with the perfect answer for her at that particular point in time. If I have not done that, I am not listening empathetically. This is the depth of relationship that we're talking about. This is what relationship really is.
Hmm.
We try to keep it superficial. Why? Because it's easy.
Hmm.
I want
It's
to get the
no more
most
than
for the
that.
less. Right. I want to get the most for the less. I want to get this relationship off the clearance rack.
Mm. Everything that's on sale ain't good.
I'm just saying. So, the piece that I need to consider all the way through it is that I need to learn how to suspend and get rid of all judgment while she is talking. So if I have any opinion about what she is saying while she is saying it, I'm in error. I
Mm.
have to learn to suspend the opinion while she's talking. So again, reflection is all about me, assessment is all about him. So when it
That's
comes
good.
down to those things, I do those constantly for those relationships. I can't do it for everyone because that's a lot of work.
Hmm.
I would be exhausted just building, maintaining, and nurturing relationships all day. I don't know what better way to say it. I mean, I know Christ was, he was raised up as the carpenter's son, but I mean, afterwards, he just went out building and developing and nurturing relationships.
That's also a good point that you made. You can't be everybody's friend. Some people it's just not going to work out because it's going to become exhausting for you because you're the one who is holding this relationship when you're constantly putting out, putting out, putting out, and they aren't giving. So it's almost like an application to a job. I want to see if you're a good fit for this position. If you're not getting hired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, listen, again, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Michelle Ray. We definitely appreciate you. Michelle Ray is one of our awesome super supporters, and we greatly appreciate her. She is getting her shirt. We already got a size. I already know where she's at, so I know how to get it to her, and she will be a proud wearer of the Empowering Perspective Community shirt. So thank you so much for that. My main man, Mr. Ruddy Walker, aka the brother minister over there, he says identify when you were at your lowest and then see how you got over that. Having gone through pains will make you listen differently. Absolutely. Like the
Absolutely.
things that we've been through allow us to have compassion for others. I
Right.
man, I like the fact that he brought that to the table because your testimony, right, can be shared for those who are going through the things that you've been through. So yes, sir.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for that, brother Lyons. Always good to see you, man. Welcome to the show. Let me see. I want to make sure. Oh, Dr. Sweet, exactly. Can you do what it takes to get what you need? This conversation is fine. We greatly appreciate that,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Sweet.
Dr. Sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Michelle Ray, she over there singing a rap song. Break it down to the very last compound. All right. Let's see. Dr. Sweet is back at it again. It's hard for some people to take accountability for their actions. Why? When they are quick to point out everyone else's fault. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That is too much to do.
And if they're
And Miss
always pointing somebody else's faults out, they don't have the time to sit and reflect on themselves
Absolutely.
because they constantly it's you. They're running from who they really are and what needs to
Hmm.
be fixed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Miss Verlie McCoy said you can't fix something when you don't know what you are fixing. Absolutely. We
Hmm.
must we must assess what we're working on. I mean, well, we must reflect then assess what we're working on. All right, relationship management. We got to kind of step on the gas here. All right.
Okay.
So so now we're talking that deeper connection. And so again, if you paid attention to this, all of this gets us to that deeper connection where we get to the point of esteeming others higher than ourselves. This is the evidence of the spirit within. So, Anita, how do you use self awareness to propel yourself into a higher elevation for the sake of others?
Well, Rudy already talked about it. He just said when you go through something, you're able to listen differently. So when I'm in these situations, how am I self aware and I see someone who's like me? I know what it was like when I was there. And I remember what I needed and I didn't get. So from mentors or people that I looked up to, them being super harsh about things. And it's like I just needed somebody to listen
Mm,
or not to judge me because I felt judged. Like I don't want to talk to you. So now I feel alone in this. And it's
mm,
harder for me to grow when I'm alone, when you have other people who've been through it, but because they're so far removed from when they actually went through it, they look down on you for it. That's not what
yeah,
we're supposed to do. If you see yourself in someone else, have the compassion to remember what it was like when you were there.
yeah,
So that's how I'm able to look at others like, okay, I understand what they're going through. I remember what it felt like and it wasn't good.
yeah,
But not to project my thoughts and ideas on them. If they ask me, yes, we can have this conversation. And I'll tell them, do you want the real version or you want the surface? Because I know what I went through and what you're saying is similar.
right.
But if you're not ready for the real conversation, don't ask me that question.
Mm, that's good. I like that. I really do. For me, I just want to kind of pick up where I left off of, like the reflection and assessments, right? Because there's something that must be done when you identify where he is and how far away from him I am in reality. First and foremost, going back to the beginning, as my aperture widens, hopefully I can clearly identify reality and then compare it reality, right? The authentic nature of reality and how far I am from it
Hmm.
based upon what I know from him, now I can say, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this better, so forth and so on. So now in that understanding of the assessment, that information that I get back from the assessment, I can look at self and say, you ain't even close. I need to
Hmm.
do a little bit more of this. I need to do a little bit more of that. And then I go back and practice that and then assess it again. Then go back and practice the learning that I get from the assessment. It's not good enough to do a thing if I'm not willing to put in the work to apply the learning to the next time I do it. So
Say
for
it again.
me, it's not good enough to do a thing if I'm not willing to put in the work to apply the information that I learned from doing it the first time to when I do it the second time. So
Yes.
when I listen and I realize that, man, while she was talking, I was thinking that she's going through this because of that, I'm in error. I'm in error. So the next time she talked, I am making sure that I shut off the noise in my head so I can hear clearly what she is saying. So I constantly practice the information from the lesson learned previously. It is not something that, oh, I know how to do this now and do it. No, you have to constantly do it over and over again. So you do the heavy lifting for you to be available for them when they begin speaking, when they come around, when they talk, when they say, hey, I would like to I have something that I really want to talk to you about. If you're sitting at your computer, push around, turn around and face that person and give
Mhm.
them your undivided attention. Never make somebody feel inferior. Newsflash, there's no such thing as multitasking. Multitasking is something that was told to you and you believed it when they told you. Really, what you do is you do short bursts of focused energy. That's what the truth is. You think I'm lying? I do this all the time, and I'm gonna tell on myself, y'all. Just don't judge me. So Anita's talking, and I'm working over here in the background. So I'm only hearing partially what she is saying, but I stay focused long enough to get the gist of what she is saying, so I can come and do what I need to do over here. Then I come back. If if multitasking was real, then I could actually hear everything she say and process everything she is saying while I'm mentally processing something like that, something over here at the exact same time. Impossible. You cannot do it. So stop fooling yourself and lying to other people saying that I can do two things at one time. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. It is not physically or humanly possible. Sure, you can walk and chew gum at the same time because when you do subconsciously, walking, I don't have to think about walking. So that's the thing. You can walk and chew gum at the same time, but you can't do conscious and conscious at the same time. It has
That's
to be
right.
subconscious and conscious. If it's subconscious and conscious, you can do those two things at the same time. But if I have to think about those things in which I'm doing, no, you can't do it. The only thing you're doing is give a person a part of you at that time when they're requesting your attention. That's why they're trying to
Mhm.
talk to you. And you know what's the thing that interferes with us every time we do it? This thing here, this thing here, this thing gets in the way because we will talk to people and then we'll start
Be in the
texting. Or,
phone.
or we're on Facebook or we're on Instagram or whatever. And the worst one is when you call somebody and you're calling them and they're in the background doing something and you're hearing the clanging and the banging and all that stuff and you're really trying to talk to them. Man, I get to the point, I just stop talking. I'll wait till you get finished. You don't have to convince me of what I already know.
Mhm.
So when it comes down to how do you use self-awareness, I constantly assess myself so that I can do and be better. So I try, and I'm not perfect at it, I'll be honest with you. So I try when I'm on the phone to sit on my booty and listen.
Mhm.
I try to do that. Do I do it every time? Absolutely not, because sometimes when I get calls, I'm in the midst of doing something. So I finish doing what I'm doing, then I go sit down. That's the
Mhm.
thing that we have to learn to be intentional about because people are more important than the thing that you were doing. And that is all.
I hear that we have to be intentional when
Yes.
we are when we're listening. We have to practice intentional listening. Not, okay, I'm listening. Hold, what you
Mhm.
said? Say
Right.
that again?
Mhm.
No, that's not it. So I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Miss Verlene
Even though I think
McCoy's
I'm a multitasker,
you're a good
but
multitasker. Yeah, we all think that. We all think that. I'm just being honest. It's no judgment, no judgment, right? I just said that we don't judge
right.
nobody. We just make them aware.
But I
All right,
like how you
so
broke it down.
yeah, that's the truth. You have to practice this every day. Not man, listen. Queen V, you're spot on. You have to
Mhm.
practice this every day because you will gain some traction today and you will regress tomorrow. And
Mhm.
it's not a point for us to judge ourselves from not being where we were yesterday. It's just a point of awareness that shows that you're not good at doing it yet, but you have to do it every day. So great point, and thank you for saying that. Uncle Junior confirms intentional listening, being present in the moment. Absolutely,
Yes.
very good points. Okay, moving on to expression versus suppression. Now, I think this is important because a lot of times what we do is we suppress things. And we talked about this last night, especially when we started talking about passivity and passive communication techniques, right? So we tend to suppress a lot and don't even realize it. So the question literally becomes this. So this becomes the how, when, and to what degree to express my feelings. Now, when you are upset, disappointed, or angry, what process do you go through to express how you feel? This ought to be good.
Well, the old me was tearing up stuff and rearranging houses.
Mm,
I'm rearranging some rooms because if I got to that point, and it wasn't just, I just didn't know the buffer in between 0 and 100. It
mm,
was 0 to 100. It was no steps to. So I'm quiet. I don't bother anybody. I don't start a mess. So if somebody were to do or start something with me, I'm automatic. I'm hot. We fighting. That's it. Because I don't even bother you like that. I had to learn. No, you need to think about why are you. Why is this upsetting you? I had to sit with myself. Is it because you're disappointed? Is it because you're hurt? Is it because you feel unheard? Like I had to go through the process. And as I matured, spending more time with the Lord, I realized I don't have to act out to get my point across. So
Mhm.
now what I do when I'm upset or disappointed, angry, I'm in my car. I'm talking about if it's something that happened at work, I can't wait to get in the car so I tell the Lord, did you see that?
Mm.
Did you see what they did? Let me tell you, as if he wasn't there. But I'm able to express what I'm feeling, and then I'll hear, just calm down. And then I'm able to go back in like nothing happened. And people are looking at me like, I know, no, I got a good poker face. And it's not really a face anymore.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? No, I don't have to fight you with words or physically. I'm fighting in prayer. So anything that I don't like, anything that's making me upset, I'm praying about it first. So me getting quiet is not weakness. Trust me, it takes more strength to be quiet than it do to act out.
Indeed.
So I'm being quiet. I'm listening. How do you want me to respond, Lord, to you, or even if I have to respond at all, and then I move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. So I'm a lot like you. When I was younger, and I think most people are when they were younger, right? They were they will react in such a way to where at a later point in time they may regret something they did and or said. Um and so I don't think there's been any person that came out the womb that can learn how to control their emotions day one. So I believe we all fall in that category. Um, and for me, I would say now it is a more controlled process. It is a process to where it's more so in line with the idea of active listening because I really worked hard at doing it. Now, you don't know that I'm active listening with the exception of me head nodding and me asking questions. And I think I do a pretty decent job with asking questions because what I don't know, I will ask questions about what I'm trying to fill in the gaps of understanding, I'm gonna ask questions about. And
Hmm.
then I have a way of paraphrasing what I understand that you say so that you can tell me that I am processing it right or I'm completely wrong. And so you'll get the active listening from me, and you'll get the questions for the clarity. And then at the end of the day, from that point on, I will respond accordingly. Now, what does that really mean? Well, how you present the information I will respond accordingly. I'm sorry. It is what it is. So if we're here, then I'm here.
Hmm.
If you're here, I have a way of coming up there to let you know that this is not where we want to be at. We might want to bring it back down here. We talked about this last night. So most people think that that's aggressive. It's not aggressive, it's assertive. Assertive can look aggressive in the times where aggression is needed. Assertive can look passive in the times where passive is needed. Assertive, like I tell people all the time, I have passive aggressive humor, right? But I only do it with people who I know that understand that. I don't do it with
Hmm.
strangers, right? So I will, like, say, for example, I told Anita something and she didn't do it and then it didn't work out on her behalf. And I just talked about this earlier, right? Then she comes back and say, "You know what? That thing you was telling me to do, I should have listened to you because it didn't work on my behalf." I'm like, "Well, if you had listened to me, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things, but it's not done to damage her. It's only done for humor. That's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that because that would be the type of relationship that we have.
Hmm.
But there are some people who do it intentionally and they do it to be dismissive and they do it to be undermining. So we have to understand the differences in that. Again, go back and listen to last night and it becomes crystal clear. So I say all that to say that these are the things that I do. I listen now, I ask questions to understand so I can gain clarity, and then I respond accordingly. Therefore, ideally, in these two aspects of the conversation, it is advantageous for us to remain even keel because if you are getting upset because I'm trying to get an understanding of what you're saying, then my response is going to be up here to respond to you being upset. Then I'm going to ask that we bring it back down here, right? I'm going to do like our
Right.
president, Joe Biden, let's lower the temperature. I'm going to ask that, I'm going to request that. And then if we can't get it to that point, I have a line. I talked about it last night. I call it the defibrillator. When I hit the defibrillator, that means that this conversation is not going to go any further at this particular point in time,
Right.
unless we can figure out how to bring it back down. And I'm okay with walking away from a conversation and coming back to it at a later point in time. We call that a timeout. So
Mhm.
those things that I do, and I think I do pretty well with doing it. I will stay in a conversation as long as information is being exchanged. But once the information starts being recycled because a person can't hear what is actually being said, or if it's me for that matter, right? Because I'm not perfect, I'll be honest with you. So once that happens, hey, take a time out, go take a deep breath, drink some water, then come back to the conversation. Maturity demands that you come back to the conversation. Immaturity says it'll get better with time. So that's just what I believe when it comes down to conversations and actually expressing how you feel. Because here's the deal: you have to share it, and that's what that's what relationship is for. To share how you feel, not to hold a person hostage to how you feel. I'm gonna say that
Yes.
again: to share how you feel, not to hold a person hostage to how you feel.
I had to stop rehearsing responses to questions to a conversation before I even got there.
We call that wargaming.
Because
I
I
laugh.
was doing, I was like, oh yeah. If they say this, ooh, I'm gonna say that.
Hmm.
And I'm ready for this. And it just created the volume of the conversation to go. Like I'm already amped up because in my mind I've already rehearsed this conversation.
Right.
So I'm coming into it aggressive,
Mm.
not not any. I'm not trying to listen because I'm trying to, like you said, I'm wargaming. You're gonna
Right.
catch me off guard because I've already practiced what
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Absolutely. The issue with wargaming, for those of you who understand what she is saying, and understand what she is saying and have done it, the issue with wargaming is that you're going through this so you can have a decisive advantage. That's the issue with wargaming. We use it all the time so that we can actually understand what courses of action the enemy is actually going to take so we can have the appropriate response when they take that action. A person is not your enemy. Your enemy does not look like you. Your enemy does not behave like you. Your enemy does not believe like you believe. So we need to stop treating people like enemies. So I'm glad you brought that because I can talk about it because I'm very familiar with it. Just saying.
Hmm.
Okay, listen, I hope you guys are enjoying this. We got one more real quick. And as we are going through this, I really want you guys to take a listen to how we talk about this because now this is all about putting it together, constant self-reflection. And I stress that piece, which means that all things, not just some things, you have to find the silver lining. So all things work together for the good, and you guys should know the rest. So with that being said, we're going to dive into this, right? With this particular question. So, as we're asking this question, I want you guys to put in the notes, in the chat, I want you to tell us what key point did you take away from this discussion. So, while they're doing that, Miss Onita, tell me and tell us what aspect of social competence are you consciously focusing on?
Becoming a better listener, and how can I apply what I learned today? Because not just the people who are with us in the audience are learning, I'm learning just like they are in areas that I need to practice more in. How can I become a better listener and then not going into something with preconceived notions about who this person is?
Hmm.
So I'm reflecting on, like you said, what do I need to work on with me?
Yeah.
Not prejudging someone based on, oh, you going through that. I wonder why you going through that.
Right.
You have that question like, you know what you did. We don't need to do that. I'm sure
Yeah.
they know what they did. They already in it. They don't need extra from outside. They need someone they can call call or have a companion. So I'm working on that, and that's continual work because it's never ending. You're always going to meet someone new, and if I can't be of service, then what good am I?
Yeah.
I want to be of service. I don't want people to think, yeah, you can talk to her, but she's gonna judge you the whole time. She's
Mm.
gonna give you what you want, or what you need. But in the beginning, it's going to be rough. No, I don't want to be so harsh where people don't want to come to me. I want to be of good service. So that way, like you said in the beginning, all things work for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose, in case somebody didn't know the rest.
Yeah, gotta add that last piece there. We gotta stop cutting that off. We gotta make sure that
So,
that stays on.
right. So being a better listener, practicing that, not multitasking when I'm listening, because ooh, my daughter Destiny, she get on me. Just thank you, Lord. She gets on me because I'll be on my phone and she'll be talking to me, and I'll be like, say that again.
Hmm.
And I'll say it like 3, 4 times. She's like, Mommy, oh my gosh. So seriously, today I was in class too. Being
Mm.
a better listener, not multitasking, being intentional when I'm listening.
Wow, that was good. And I thank you for sharing that. For me, it's easy to say everything, right? And I probably subconsciously heard about everybody in the audience say everything, all of them. I'm practicing all of it. Sure, let's just base on sure. Everybody's practicing all of it. I will not get off of the listening thing. I'm with you when it comes to listening. Everybody needs to practice being a better listener. That's just it. I don't care how good of a listener you think you are, you can improve. So listening is
Hmm.
always the number one answer. I think the struggle is understanding when relationship goes through the gates of significance, going from creation to maintaining to nurturing. Because let's be honest, maintaining is where the population exists. The population of your associates is at maintain, right? The people of significance are in nurturing, but life happens, right? People come, time and season applies to every aspect of our life. So as people of significance fade away, move away, pass away, or whatever other version of a way that may happen, there are other people that move into significance. So understanding when relationships have matured to the point of passing through the gates. Some people never make it to maintaining, right? They remain associates, and that's good. That's okay. Let's go back to the beginning, right? I don't want you to be no more than who you think you need to be. So I'm not
Hmm.
going to force you to grow. I'm not going to know. But for me, the people that are around in my space are those people who are seeking higher and doing better and being better and looking for to become significant in the lives of other people and be impactful. That's like my circle. So
Right.
it's okay to create, but if you don't want to move into maintaining, I'm okay with that as well. If you don't want to move from maintaining to nurturing, I'm okay with that as well. But here's the key: the words that come out of your mouth is not the indicator that you're ready to move. The behavior that you display is the indicator that you are ready to move in that space for me.
Yes.
Now, it looks different in your life for those people and so forth and so on, which means that we become what's that the concentric circles. We have we have concentric circles now. This is me, this is you, and this is where relationship happens for us in that space because we both agreed with it, and that's how it works. Sometimes most of us be non-contiguous, and that's okay. When we see each other, like, "Hey, how you doing? All right, good, Jim. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye."
Hmm.
Just that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's the thing for me. Understanding and seeing clearly when relationship moves through gates because some people can move through those gates very rapidly and I am cautious of that as well because the rapid movement can be a facade. So that's just it.
Hmm.
Um and I think that's important. Listen, I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate everybody who's joined us tonight, today. I appreciate everybody who's added value to this. Anita, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the great and wonderful things that you've added to this conversation. A lot of your insight, honesty, because some people we tend to struggle with that. So we appreciate your honesty in the space of this, and I pray that something that we said adds value to someone else. So again, my bittersweet moment. Miss Onita V, she is going to give us her final thoughts as it relates to social competence.
So I would say, be intentional, not just intentional with listening, but be intentional learning who you are, reflecting instead of deflecting. And when we can and sit with ourselves, know what we need to do in order to be of service to others, we all win. It's not a competition. It's not a one up. It's how can we do this as a community? How can we grow as a community? What's needed in our community? Are we willing to listen? And then after we listen, are we going to act on it? It's one thing to hear something and not do anything, but hear it and move with it, then we all grow in some shape, form, or fashion. So just remember, we're doing this together. We have to be transparent and honest, because if not, then like someone said, how can you fix what you don't know what you're fixing?
Hmm.
You can't. You have to know. And it starts with knowing who you are. It starts with knowing what you need, what practices or things you have to put into practice to get better at it. And then you act on those things. So I would challenge you to this week, put your cell phone down, listen to someone, don't multitask, put it down, and truly give them the attention that they deserve. And then see how that continues to go week in and week out, month in, month out. And that's how we're going to get better at this listening thing.
Absolutely. I'm not going to rehash what was said. I agree with Onita. Do that. But what I would say, pick one thing and do that. Focus on doing that one thing for 1 week. If it is, like she said, listening, giving a person your undivided attention, stop trying to multitask. Focus on not multitasking for a week straight. Identify when you multitask and then go back and realize, why did I multitask in that particular moment? Did I feel pressed? Did I have a do out that was based upon a particular time? Was it something that I felt that was more important than what the other person was actually saying? Like, what was the reason I chose to multitask in that moment? And then write it down and then analyze that thing. And then, then from there, continue to do that. Continue to do that for the next few days. Next few days. Every time you do it, write down why you do it. Write down why you do it. Write down why you do it. Then in the end, what you want to do at the end of that week, you want to start identifying what was the consistency of the information. So if the information says, out of the 7 days, the 7 times, I'm just going to assume that you multitask only one time a day. Out of the 7 days, the 7 times that I multitask, it was all work related because I needed to get this done. Then what you'll realize is that you need to stop bringing work home.
Mm.
That's how it works. So assess yourself, pick one thing, focus on that for a week straight, and then you will get better because you are doing that thing we call self reflection. Listen, we appreciate you guys dearly. And we do this monthly. So again, we look forward to you guys coming back and joining us
Yes.
next month as we pick another outstanding topic. And so on behalf of my good friend, Miss Onita V, we appreciate you guys. We value you
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, have a blessed weekend and we'll see you then.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like life is on hold, perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside, when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the things on your mind are all considered a crime, communication aside, we'll all just fight till we die. Is this an argument, or just the start of it? Either way, I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space?